thank you so much for joining me today on the Tiny Sessions podcast.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for including me. I really appreciate it.
It's lovely to have you. And for anyone who hasn't heard of yourself or your space, could you just tell us a little bit about you and your background?
Yes, background, day job. I am a national account director for a hotel chain. So I'm actually in not really, it's more corporate housing.
Yeah.
So I work with companies. It's all domestic. I've been traveling a lot with work for the past, 12 plus years. And COVID really changed that for me. It put a stop to the corporate travel. It put a stop to my personal travel, which is why everything switched with bringing on the camper into my life and going through the entire process of ordering it and customizing it and creating this entirely new focus, which is, open doors and just brought so much into my life. That's my day job. And then my passion project here with this camper.
I love it. And you have this beautiful tiny camper, a little tiny trailer.
Yeah.
Sometimes the closest that I've seen is a teardrop trailer, but yours is different to that, I think, because it's got a different shape to it, hasn't it? Could you talk us through your tiny trailer and the layout of it?
Yeah, so it's called a HappierCamper, and I have to say, created by fabulous people in Los Angeles, California.
Amazing.
They started taking old retro campers, like bowlers. They're called bowlers.
Yeah.
They renovate them and rent them, and that's how it started. Just a garage, just guys out there starting to make these renovated campers into rental units, and that's where the concept of the camper came from. It came from retro camper, so it really brings that super attractive style, the old school, the pretty lines.
Yeah.
It's made out of fiberglass, so it's one solid shell, which is really neat for not only looks but practical reasons. You don't have seams, you don't deal with a lot of the issues on other types of trailers. Have seams to deal with and things like that. I mean, fiberglass has its own unique qualities. And, I feel right? No, I mean, we all have our little things to deal with. So it was attractive to me because unlike the teardrop style, and there are larger teardrops, obviously, that you can stand in, and they're super attractive and fun. I always love peeking around at campgrounds, but I loved the fact that you can stand up and it has a 6'1" clearance inside. I also had to have, I'm traveling with 2 children, so I had to have sleeping options for us. And this camper really was the selling point to me were the bunk beds, because I sleep so many people for such a tiny space, and we can all have our own space. And it works out to also be a hangout and a place where they can each, watch movies at night and kind of have their even daytime relaxing space. So that not only the company and just who they are and really cool, but then it just came down to the practicality of I can fit a bunch of people in here for such a tiny space. And obviously it's lightweight, you can pull it with any vehicle. So it just became the obvious choice for me.
No, that makes perfect sense. And I love how this company has started as well. Was it an affordable process for you? Was it quite reasonable?
So, no. and part of it is my problem. And I mean, there are so many options out there. I feel like this is a very accessible, not sport, but it's an accessible lifestyle for people, but there's different ways to go. I mean, I applaud the people that buy the old ones and renovate them and have the skill and the perseverance to do that. I don't have a lot of those specific skills, especially, they do the electrical and they do all this stuff. So when I went into it, I just loved the quality and every little detail. The hinges are just big and they look like the old Coke machine coolers, and they're
Cool.
I just really I fell in love with it, and I am an aesthetics person, and I love the way it looks and feels. And by the time you create, I mean, you really create your own, because you're choosing the color, you're choosing the interior color, it's a modular system on the inside, so you're choosing, what modular cubes you want. And such a personal, I don't even know, it's just, you put so much into it to make all those decisions. By the time you get them, they take on a life of their own, and they're just a special little critter, and it's yours. I mean, you really so they are more expensive than a lot of other options out there, especially for the size. I think some people will go, whoa, but when you look at the quality, and we can sit in there in storms and downpouring rain and, just never have an issue. And I wanted a feeling of safety too. I wanted to be able to close the doors and lock the doors, and my kids feel safe, I feel safe. But I also, part of it's my fault. And I say that because I think I almost had every option, every upgrade. Solar, the off-grid solar. So I've never plugged in my camper. I go everywhere, and I have lights and the heater all night long, and I can plug in a computer or, whatever types of small appliances, anything. And I just had to have that, because I'm not the type of person to always be in areas where I have power and I have, all of that kind of stuff. And then the bunk beds, and I got the lifted package to make it, a little sportier.
Yeah.
So it's my fault.
But then, did you have that sort of mentality that you were doing it once and thought, you know what, I'll just do it how I want it the first time?
Yeah. You kind of start dipping a toe in the water, and then you go, well, if I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna go for it. And I work with a lot of people, in person or over Zoom calls when they're in the purchasing phase of the Happier Campers, and they always say, oh, I'm not going to do that, I'll do that later. I'm not going to do, and I always talk to them and go, having them install it now and getting what you want, if you're going to put this investment, if you're going to invest in this camper, just go for it.
Yeah.
And I end up talking people into just kind of, go with what's going to personalize it and make it, because when you're investing just that little bit for those little things,
Yeah, definitely. So do you have people approach? What was that?
I'm like, you're gonna want it. You're gonna want them. So yeah.
Definitely. Do you have people contact you and say, like, what do you think, and ask for advice, knowing that you've got one?
Yes, a lot. And it's a daunting process, because when I say you really do choose every element, you really do. And it's really difficult. I mean, do you want the windows that slide or the windows that pop out? Do you want half white with half the color? Do you want full coat color? Do you want this? I mean, it is daunting. I mean, it is. You think, oh, this is so cool, I can choose everything. That you kind of that decision chaos, and at the end I was just throwing everything in, because like, oh my gosh. So yeah, people reach out to me a lot. They want to know from a buyer perspective, what am I actually going to need? What actually makes sense? Are there things that you purchase that you never use? So, and that's kind of the basis of, that my Instagram is just to provide information on all the components as as kind of a side part to, the adventures and just sharing the experience. Provide some practical views of all of the things you can choose, and do I use it? And if I do use it, what does it look like? And what are things that I wish were different, or I probably wouldn't use, or hey, I thought I wasn't going to use this, but this is kind of cool. And I offered early on with HappierCamper, early on, I said, if someone in my area, in Washington, Oregon, if they want to see the camper, awesome, so if they're deep into the buying process, I'm obviously not out there, randomly meeting strangers. Oh, but if they're legitimately in the buying process, and I do a lot of Zoom calls with people around the country, who just want to get out in the camper, and then we can talk about it and I can show them things and fun. I love it. I mean, I think one of the reasons why a lot of us are in this community, it's just there's some cool people out there. You run into cool people, you know, on the road and the campgrounds, and everyone wants to see each other's setup. I mean, you do. You want what to look like in there.
It's exciting.
What kind of chairs are you using, or what kind of coffee pot do you have? And I think curiosity for what the other person is doing is one of my favorite things about this.
Yeah, definitely. And are there things that you would have changed or wouldn't have chosen?
The big thing is I'm going to change this, but I didn't add air conditioning, like a cooling system, when I bought it. I mean, the Pacific Northwest is pretty mild, you know, it's similar. Okay. But I mean, we just roasted last summer. I mean, there were moments where we were so I thought, you know, I should have just added it. And I'm planning a trip in March, a big road trip to return my camper back to its home. It'll be really fun. But I'm gonna do some upgrades like that I really wish I would have done. And we can I can share that experience with everybody. And they have upgraded different part, you know, right when I purchased my camper, right during COVID. You know, I mean, a lot of their suppliers changed, and I want them to. I've seen on the new ones where I'm like, oh my gosh, I want that. So we're kind of talking about some different upgrades and the things that they're using now that I was going crazy for. So
that's cool. Oh, I love that. And you have this amazing sort of attitude that you're like a weekend nomad. You've got a really crazy hectic job, but you're this lovely weekend nomad. And I'd love to know, how do you plan your weekend adventures, or do you literally just go off out and see where you go?
Yeah, and I sincerely call myself an aggressive weekend nomad. It is not a joke, it's real. I am always taking off. And my kids are kind of funny, Mom, where are we going this weekend? How long? You know, I'm like, okay, it's 4 hours, but it's really you know, right now, in order to I love our state parks, and I love the booking system. I mean, I would love to say that I just head out and I find a place, but practically when you're trying to maximize your weekends, and you have kids, I need to know where I'm going, and to know when I get there, I'll have a spot. I can't be stuck in the middle of the night moving on to the next campground. So I do plan. I definitely, there are campgrounds that you cannot get into unless you book early. So I've already, in December, I actually booked a couple of places that I was not able to get into last summer. But mostly what I do is I just stalk the different websites throughout the work week, and I just wait for cancellations. And oftentimes the cancellations are great campsites, because they're the people that booked, you know, in the spring, and they didn't know what their schedule would be, because I have had the best luck of getting these amazing campsites last minute, just during the week. And I will literally, as I'm working, I will just like pop onto the website and throughout the day until I see one come up, and then I just jump on it and book it right then and there. I mean, it's that difficult sometimes to get into these places.
Oh, wow.
So I will book multiple. I'll book one, and then I'll keep watching for the one I really want to go to, and if it opens up. So yeah, I could be heading, you know, 4 hours north, and then last minute go, nope, I'm heading south 5 hours. So yeah, I'm very dynamic with where I'm off to, but I kind of have a wish list.
Yeah.
Of cool places, because I want to make sure there's a hike involved. I actually do ultra marathons, so I'm always trying to drag everybody active. And if there's a water source, that's another thing. I mean, how fun is it to be able to play in the river, the lake?
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's so cool. I love that you look out for those cancellations, because do you find that you get like a cheaper deal, or is it more expensive when there's a last minute cancellation?
It's the same.
It's the same. Cool. So you don't miss out or anything.
Not at all. And you do pay a cancellation fee, but I feel like the, $10 cancellation fee is worth
Yeah.
kind of I mean, for me, it's worth it. It's kind of the cost of doing business for me. Like, I will pay if I can get into one of the places that I've been, and I always look for, I really like, private campsites. So many of us do. I don't like being in a parking lot with a bunch of other rigs. I like to be, a little nook, a little lakefront, like most of us. So
yeah, definitely. Oh, I love that. And I know, so you have your tiny trailer, but I also know that you have in effect a tiny house, but you're also downsizing from that tiny house. I'd love to hear about this as well.
Right. So I'm currently sitting in I call it the big house. It's not even that crazy big. It's just bigger than. So I am downsizing into a 750 square foot house, which is not technically a tiny house, but for me and my kids, it's
small. Yeah.
Very small. It's very small. And I've been thinking a lot about it. I'm going, what's going on with you? You've got your tiny trailer and you want, I feel like you can kind of, with my camper, you can wrap your arms around it. I feel like I can handle this. I can handle what comes up. Worst case scenario, I unhook it and try to move up. I want to feel like I got this. I can deal with it. I'm not going to get myself into some horrible situation with this huge camper. And the house is kind of the same thing. I mean, right now, I live on quite a bit of land and there's always something coming up. Yeah. It's just crazy, like sprinklers and water and frozen. Yeah, so I'm excited to move into the little house. It's been in my family for about 15 years.
Oh, so lovely.
Life, and my oldest daughter's lived in it, so it's a special place, but I'm currently completely renovating it. So it should be done in weeks and then we'll be moving in. So you have to be so creative. Yeah. As everyone knows, living in tiny spaces, which so many of your partners are, everything has to have dual use. We have really, really organized, which is so hard for kids and busy people, but we'll see how it goes.
Oh, I love it. I think it's fantastic. Do you get people question your love for tiny spacing, or is your network really just like, I love this is you?
No, it's really cute. I say it's cute because I have a couple of haters, that say, oh, your kids have to share a room, or, oh, why would you, and it's like, my life is actually more of an outbound life. Yeah. So I want my home space to be, set up, have what we need. I love having a nest. I need a nest for my kids and I need to be able to do my day job. But my life is really outbound, and it has been for years. When I would go to Europe all the time, every 6 weeks or so, I like to live for the adventures and just being out of things. So I don't need to have an asset, a home that takes all of your money and all of your time.
Yeah.
I want that spent out doing things and showing my kids the world around them, not at home trying to clean the house or paint the house or fix the sprinklers or mow the lawn. It's nice to just go, I have this tiny little space. So I do get some haters, but at the same time, I have people go, oh, small spaces are cozy and you spend more time together. And I am being creative, giving them their space, because everyone needs their space. But if we can travel together in a 10-foot by 8-foot little trailer, we'll be fine in 700 square feet. We don't all need our own bathroom. We don't, it'll be fine. And I love to teach them flexibility and me flexibility, and it's gonna be better, I think, in the long run. Yeah. But the trailer, I have to say one thing about the tiny trailer, and I think about this all the time, and I think I like to be outside. Most of my time is outside. I put the beds down and put the table up, and I always have a usable space. But that's the cool part about having these tiny spaces, is everything kind of spills into the outdoors. Yeah. But I cook out there, I hang out, that's where I have my coffee, that's where I make my coffee. I like being outside, but having this cool space to feel safe and get out of the weather and stay warm at night. But I mean, I want to be outside.
Yeah, that's it. And then you've got that space that you can have your sleeping, but for you it's about being outdoors, isn't it, and making the most of that outdoor setting, which is great. Like you say, you have your coffee outside and everything. I love that, and I think it's so nice to be able to make the most of it, because it's like when you say, like, with not being the lady who is in the house doing the washing and the cooking and ironing, and it's like you can have instead being outdoors and adventuring and having time with your children and all of those. It's just making that choice and doing it, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. I'm a big proponent, and I've joked about this before, and I love bucket lists. I love like wish lists, but I always encourage people when they say, oh, I want to go to Ireland someday, or, oh, I want to, I'm like, just try as hard as you can to make these things. And it might not be the exact way you want to do it, or you can't buy this exact camper, but make it happen now. I mean, we really don't know, what the future brings. And so I just, as much as you can, just right now, just this weekend.
Yeah.
There's really nothing stopping people. Even if we car camped, we tent camped, we did everything before this phase. And I had to think about it for years and plan for it for a while to make it happen. So it didn't just, hey.
No, you worked towards it. You worked hard towards it. I love that. And I've noticed on your Instagram, you, as part of it, like you were saying, you have those showcases of the items in your van, but you're also sort of delving into being a brand ambassador for different products that tailor to those spaces as well. And how are you finding that? Is it easy? Do you enjoy it?
So, and that it's kind of funny. I think you get to a point where at the beginning you're just doing what you do, and I still am just doing what I do.
Yeah.
And I have talked with brands that are brands that I obviously use, and I use them, and I use them like crazy.
Yeah.
And that opens doors. I mean, that it does open doors to partnerships, and I have some fun stuff coming up. But I think you kind of grow your account, your audience, your community to a point where then it starts opening doors, and you start partnering with people that are like-minded, companies that are just awesome and have cool people running them, and they have similar views on life that you have. They want to be outside, they want to provide products that help you be outside. And me, I'm really straightforward. I'm never, posing or out fake using something. If it doesn't withstand me and what I do and using it, you won't see it. It really has to be used. And I love gear, I love quality gear, and I love testing things in real life. Just like if I run ultra marathons and I run 50Ks, like baby ultras, there's so many people out there doing these grand adventures, but I call them entry-level ultras. They're like the little baby ones. But so the shoes, the paint, it has to last for like 8 or 9 hours, not just a half an hour. It really work. And so I kind of pull that forward into the rest of the things I do. Even my cooler, it like really has to not leak, and it really has to keep things cold or hot. I mean, it's just practical stuff. We all know it. I mean, we all have had products where you're like, this is horrible.
That's it. And then at the end of the day, then you're giving an honest review, and that's what businesses want, because they want their product to be right. So that's great. I love that. I like how you just go into everything. And is it just yourself and your kids? It is amazing. So you are a solo mama who you go for it in life, and you bring up your kids in this amazing way that it's basically that focus to just give them a life that's outdoors, so they see everything as well.
Right. And I grew up, we had a motor home, like an old school motor home, and we would camp and ride motorcycles and do different sports. And I loved that feeling as a kid when you show up again to the place you went last year. Yeah. And you're like, oh, we're back at this place, and let's go on that trail, and let's make a fire, and let's do this. So I think just wanting to provide my kids with, things to look forward to, or those moments where you go, oh my gosh, remember that time? And we do, we already have, we try, we got a little bit behind, but we try to do this camping journal at the end of all of our trips.
Nice.
And sit down and write all of the little nuances or the funny experiences or, you know, the little snafus that happen. So because you you know, all these random things happen, or you meet different people or have these experiences. And it's so cool to put them down because you forget so much of what happened anyways. So.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I love it. Absolutely love it. And with our community, we always like to ask a question, and I always invite them to ask a question. And the question that they've asked is, what made you choose a tiny trailer? So there's so many spaces that you could choose. What was it that made you choose a tiny trailer? I know that you said that they were great in terms of company where they did everything, but there's loads of companies that do that for you of different tiny spaces. What is it that attracted you to that unique space?
I wanted something that I could handle myself.
Yeah.
It sounds silly, but there's a lot of moments where you're like, oh, I need somebody who's stronger or can open and I do have to ask for help a lot.
Yeah.
And I do have a boyfriend, and he does travel and try to join me on trips and help me on. But I wanted something that I could handle, and I didn't want to deal with, you know, the pipes and the toilet stuff and the, you know, there were things that don't appeal to me to try to have to deal with myself. Like I don't want to have tanks and that kind of thing. And I'm not that style of person. So it worked well for me because, you know, a lot of people say all the time, where do you go to the bathroom? Where do you take a shower? Where do you take a shower? Where do you take a shower? I'm like, look, I'm not gone that long. Keep myself clean. It's like there's campground showers if I really need to. We're in the lake all day, you know. And I like to live outside, so I feel like the tiny trailer is the perfect mix because you live your life out around the campfire. Yeah. And then, I mean, trust me, there's moments during storms where we're all in there and we're playing cards. I think the tiny trailer appeals to me because you end up living in nature with it. So it becomes just part of the coolness, the background, the ambiance. Mine is just so pretty. I'm super attracted to it. I mean, I just sit and look at it like,
beautiful.
I absolutely love it. Like I said, it took on this whole little, I don't know. It took on this personality of its own. Well, you're so cute. Yeah. So I mean, I go to places and people are inside their campers the entire time, and I'm just physically not that person. So for me and my style of living and camping and being out on the road, this was the perfect mix because then you're in nature. You're kind of out sitting around, and I use my camper. It gets dirty. There's shoes, and I know in pictures it's clean, but at the end of the camping trip, it is not at all. At all. Mud, dirt, wet, stuff everywhere.
Oh, that's brilliant though. Just like you say, it means that you've been outdoors and you've fulfilled what you wanted to do as well, which is amazing. Yeah. I always like to ask a question at the end of each podcast, and it's a sustainability question. And it is sustainability wise, what do you wish that you or we had more of?
Oh my gosh, say the end part. I'm sorry.
That's all right. What part of your question? What do you wish that you or we had more of?
More of? Oh my God. I didn't even think you could stump me. I didn't think it was possible.
It's a hard question because it's so broad.
I feel like we had more awareness and just more empathy just towards fellow man and earth. And I don't say that in a cheesy way at all. I just wish we had a better understanding as a collective that we are sincerely all on the same island here. Yeah. And I always say that I just try to be a good community member. And I mean that just, my family, my town, and it just goes out from there. If you see it about to fall off their chair, make sure they don't hit the ground. Just just one thing at a time. I try to be aware, I try to have an open mind and learn from each person because everyone has something to offer. And I think sustainability wise, that goes out.
Yes, definitely.
You have no idea
Yeah.
what the impact is. And we learn, you know, how many chinks down that chain is it causing problems?
Yeah. Yeah.
Another thing, so many companies out there right now that are, you know, using post-consumer materials to make their products and things like that. And I value those people that are doing that. So yeah, I feel like just more awareness and including myself. Yay. And I think that's super important for everybody just to kind of take in new information.
Yeah, definitely. Like you say, there's always something new that you could learn from each person, and it's just taking that in and being aware of it and then applying that to everything that's going on. I love that. That's a fantastic answer. It's really, really good. And for anyone who would love to come and see you on your Instagram page, what is your Instagram page called?
It is Tara's Tiny Trailer.
Perfect. Oh, fantastic. Oh, Tara, it's so lovely to chat to you today. Thank you for coming.
You as well. Thank you so much.
That was so nice. It's so good chatting to you. It's really interesting. I love how you have created this lifestyle that you've just given to your kids as well. It's so lovely. I think it's so precious and so important.
It's funny, and it's funny because sometimes I have to drag that. You know, sometimes they're just like, "Mom, again." But yes. They're like, okay, and they go do their thing, and they let me set up camp, and because I love to, like, put lights out, make it cool, and then I'm like, okay, we're done. I'm relaxed. I'll hang out. And even, Mom, do we have to go on another hike? And then they get out there, they're like, oh, this is so cool. So it's just kind of coaxing them out of the.
That's the thing, and once they're out, they love it.
Oh, 100%. How long to drive? But then we stop playing. Like, oh yay, you know.
How old are your kids?
So I have a 10 and 13 at home, and then I have an older daughter who's 23.
Oh, cool. Does your older daughter come sometimes?
I want her to. She works for 911, so if you call the emergency.
Oh, yeah.
She's a dispatcher, so when you call, she's the one that answers the phone. So she has a job with a really weird schedule. Yeah. They work nights. So I'm hoping to get her out this year. And I always call them guest rooms. You know, I always bring a tent because my boyfriend does join me sometimes. He has kids that are older, you know, they're like 18 and 21. But yeah, I love having guest rooms with me, like tents, that's what I call them. I like that. Because it's so fun with people. And those few times when, you know, my friends and neighbors and different people have joined us out there, it is just, I mean, it's just a blast. I mean, the best part is sharing that time with other people and telling stories, and definitely. I think I'm exactly the same, like being able to just like I've done my own space, I've done a solo trip recently, but I think I really enjoy being around people, and I love all of that, and I love the company and things like that, and I love that idea of having your guest rooms with the tents. I think that's fantastic. Such a good idea. Because I'm painfully independent, and I feel for anyone in my life, you know, partner wise, because I really, it's not a joke, it's not me being tough, but I really just, I don't care who's with me. I mean, I'm going. Yeah. So you're obviously always with me. But mornings, my kids are still asleep. So many people ask me, why don't you ever make coffee or do anything I'm like, my kids are sleeping. I am happy outside, making my coffee, doing my thing, and I journal a lot, and I try to just, you know, decompress, put the work week aside. Yeah. But yeah, I crave that time alone. And at the same time, so oftentimes if my boyfriend, we have a long distance relationship, but if he does join me, he waits a day and lets me set up and do my own thing. I like that. And have that time. Otherwise I would go and sing. I really feel bad for anyone who tries to be in my life.
I love that though, and I think it's great that your boyfriend like understands that, because I think some guys can be intimidated if like we as women are quite independent. Like I'm very independent and I'm very like strong minded, and so like if someone says something isn't right, I'll say no, this is what it is. But I think it's great. It's a great quality to have, and we need enough like more people who are like that.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. If you can get to that point in your life, and I haven't always been this way. I mean, you go through phases. But if you can get to that point in your life where you're just, you build something for yourself, it's a game. I mean, just building, I mean, everyone says, get a hobby, but like, if you build literally a little world, little, and I mean, I feel like my camper and the account, it's kind of an organism that just kind of it kind of created this life of its own. I don't think I knew exactly what was going to happen.
Yeah.
But I did really like, let's see what I could do here. Let's see where this takes me.
Yeah.
So every time I partner with someone new, or just like all of these artists are drawing my camper this week, and I'm going to post them up, just different things where it's like, oh my gosh, all these artists are drawing my camper. And I bought it from her because it was so cute, and she put me in the picture. And so I love all the connections that it opens up, and what different people are interested. I'm like, it's a camper. What?
Yeah.
And meeting HappierCamper and the founders, the people, and having them tell me their story, and like Silk Bag, we're starting some discussions, and the wearable sleeping bag.
Yeah.
And started the company in Chile and then moved here. I mean, just cool people that just started these companies off their backs. Just like, I have an idea, make it into a company. So I
love it.
I live that.
Yeah, that's it.
Connecting with people from around the world. We have we have like-minded lifestyles and communities, and it's just so cool to just hear about it. And what are you doing? And I'm jealous you get to do it over there.
Yeah. I know, we need to get you over. We need to get you over.
Trust me, I am itching. I mean, I have friends now everywhere, and my friend in Scotland's like, when are you coming back? Dublin, like, I know. Careful with Ireland, because that's like my party space, but that's way too much fun.
Ireland is like that. I used to go to Dublin a lot, and it's like that.
I know. It's like, I gotta go. I gotta do a long weekend in Dublin. I need to get over. And I've taken my oldest daughter with me. I've taken my mom. I've taken friends. I mean, I've put my oldest daughter and I have like, and London too. I mean, that is another city that I love.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. But I haven't really, like Ireland, I've driven the entire country.
Yeah.
But I haven't really gotten out in the UK, gotten out of the city. And I've always I mean, there's so many insane places that I've wanted to explore.
To see, yeah.
And it's hard for me with the kids. That's why a lot of times I just do these like extends.
Yeah.
Because it's so hard it's hard to find help with kids and disappearing.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I'm like, bye.
And like, see you, Mom.
It's like overnight flights, and I just hit the ground running, and
that's so cool. I love that you do the two though. I think it's really important for people to hear that you can do the two. You can do it with your kids and without as well, and there's a way around it.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree, because I think right now the whole like van life, this is all I do, and I can do life just this, and super cool. If you have a way that's what you like, but there's a whole side to this, and it's like, no, I have a day job, I have kids.
Yeah.
Kids need a nest. Not all kids. I mean, people are out there with their kids homeschooling, and I think that's but for me, I just, I've got my oldest daughter and my parents, and I just, I need a little home base, but it doesn't stop that drive to be out. So I think the weekend nomad it's a real thing. And there's a lot of people out there that kind of have to do both just for practical.
Definitely. And by you and the other people doing that, it shows that it can be done, and it's actually easy, and you can have the best of both then as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Especially with tiny house. We'll see. This is going to be hilarious. I'm going to have to like do a little walkthrough or something when I.
Please do. I can't wait to see it.
They are painting right now, and I'm so nervous to put my trailer because I live in a small town, but it's in town instead of out. I'm like, I have to lock my camper and to keep it safe, because I mean they do get stolen because they're so unique and they're so small. So I'm buying a fence.
Wrap it round. Oh, it's so wonderful to chat to you. Thank you so much for giving your time to me today.
Really, best of luck, because you're kind of just like launching this, right?
Yeah. I mean, so I started, where was it? I started when we were in the pandemic in June time, and just did it as like a little like tester to see what it was like. And then I had guests booked out till 2024, and I was like, whoa, there's something here. So this year is where I'm really, really like starting and investing in it to become like a business as such, so that I can have subscriptions and people can get extra content and subscribe each month and things like that. And then I always have the free episode that goes out each month as well. So yeah, it's really coming into its own this year.
So yeah, so cool. So I'll keep an eye out for you too, because I mean, any way I can support you, I'm happy to do it.
Thank you.
I love communities and having these conversations, because people are doing some cool. I mean, I went on your website and I'm just like, oh, this is so cool. And
thank you.
Really appealing. I mean, I agree. There's something there, because there's this drive for people. We want to see what's in there. We want to see what doing in these unique spaces. So
yeah, that's it.
I'm excited.
Thank you so much. Thank you.